This is a town hall, so we're not going to do a gavel or anything like super formal, but out of tradition, one thing we love to do is we start with God and country. So if we could start with the moment of silence and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everybody could join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. And now we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Got a flag up here on the wall for those who don't know. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Fantastic. As I was saying earlier, this is a town hall. This is not a commission meeting. I want to say thank you so much to Chief Spain, Deputy Chief Smith, President Bishop, for hosting us tonight. Up with me on the dais here, we have the County Commission with our executive staff. And the purpose of tonight's town hall is to hear from all of you about the future of the fire service in Jefferson County. Before we get into any of that, I have to start by saying I'm so heartwarmed by the turnout tonight. It's a full room. You guys care about fire service. We do too. We as a county are facing something that is not unique to Jefferson County. This is something that's happening all over the country. All over the country, we have volunteer firefighters, and we have areas where there's a growing population. And one trend that we're seeing all over America is the rates of volunteerism are going down a little bit. And in certain areas where there's population going up, those two things don't match. You got your population going up and volunteers are going, the people, I'm not saying the heart is there, of course. The dedication is there even more than before, but the number of volunteers is going down, and that just makes it really tough for everybody. So what some people do is they say, well, we're just going to sit back and wait to see if something breaks and then we'll step in and fix it. But what we're trying to do is say, well, let's look ahead and see if we can plan ahead and work together with the community to come up with some solutions for the long term. I have sitting next to me Commissioner Mood, who's also a fire chief. So we have a resident expert on the county commission. And I'd like to just turn it over to you for a second, Chief Mood. If you could introduce yourself, with everybody knows you, but also tell us a little bit about what we're facing.
Good evening. My name is Mike Mood. I'm Chief of Little Way Fire Company as well as the county commissioner. One of the things we found when the study was done the last time on EMS is it was done and then just kind of handed out with little to no input from the community or from volunteer fire service. And that put a lot of stress on it and a lot of bad feelings and not necessarily the best product in the end. And so this time we want to do a polar opposite of that. We're in the very early stages of it. We're just gathering information at this point. So we're at a point we want to hear what's needed, what the volunteer fire companies see that are needed, what you're facing as challenges and possible solutions, and what we can do to move forward from there.
Commissioner Stolper, you want to give us a little bit of background?
Yes. So just so everybody's aware, 3 of the 5 commissioners here tonight wasn't on the commission when we hired Fitch and Associates to do this study. I am the oldest serving commissioner, and I was on the commission even when the ambulance, we did a reworking of the ambulance service, and we hired Fitch and Associates back in 2021. Commissioner Modstick, he and I were the only ones when we hired to do the fire study. So some of the history that goes back to this, about over a year ago, the Fire Association came to the county and they said, we would like for you to run a fire levy, put it on the ballot for the citizens to vote. And we need money to run our fire service. The commission at that time decided to do a fire study to see exactly what we need. And that's why we're here. Certainly, if we're going to use taxpayer money for anything, we need to make sure it's spent the proper way. And we want to make sure that we don't have duplicates of, say, fire ladder trucks or engines or tankers or whatever we currently have or need. We want to assess the needs And that's part of this study, and that's why we're visiting every fire station to understand what the needs are of the community. Thank you.
Thanks. Before I hand it off to Chief Spain, Commissioner Keys, Commissioner Hepestay, any opening remarks?
Yes, Sarah Keys, I just want to say thank you for having me. I look forward to hearing all of your remarks and your insight as to what makes Bakerton Fire Station successful and what their needs are in the community. I want honest feedback, so we have an educated opinion at the end of this study. Thank you.
I'm Commissioner Jack Hepestay. And my goal in this exercise that we're doing, we started a couple of weeks ago, is to make things right with the community. And so your honest feedback is important. And I certainly appreciate and value any substantiating comments.
Thank you so much. And as Commissioner Mood said, we don't have a plan. We're starting to write a plan. And the first step is to talk to the experts. You all are the experts. We want to come up with a plan together with you. So I guess the first question is, I'll hand it to you, Chief Spain, with this question. What's going on in Bakerton? What do you see as the challenges? What's the lay of the land?
First, I just want to thank everybody for coming out. The community, you all coming out means the world to us. And some of the big challenges we're facing here is we need staff to help assist you all when you all need it. A lot of the times during the week, during the day, there's not a lot of us around because everybody works. Our numbers are down for volunteers, and that's nationwide. So we're at a real crisis here, and we really hope that this study shows the commission that Bakerton's important too, and we really need staff. So I'm going to turn it over to my deputy chief for a moment. To Josh Smith, deputy chief. He's been chief here for a long time before me. So he's more the matter expert on the facts of this than I am. So I'm going to let him speak.
Good evening, everybody. Sorry, I'm so used to standing up when I come to these meetings and talk. I really want to get up. But I will sit here and talk to you guys on within our campus. But first of all, as he stated, thank you guys. We've been asking for community support at these meetings for a long time. I got chief in 2011. I stepped out as chief in December of 24. So I was here 14 years as fire chief. I've seen this place grow. We've had a lot of changes, and we have struggled for the county to assist us with staffing since it left here late 2022. A lot of it, the history of it is that we are low call volume as they run their statistics to try to pinpoint where the next call might be. However, the statistics do not tell anyone that a call will happen in the next 3 minutes to the next hour and what street it's going to end up with. Some of you who I see here tonight have used the service. You've waited a very time. You've had to wait on a fire truck. You've had to wait on an ambulance to come here from Jefferson, Harpers Ferry, Charlestown. And that's unacceptable. We try to pride ourselves as a department in public service. We can't keep doing it by ourselves with 18 people in the roster and 4 or 5 available during the work week. Everybody has family, ball games, job, 2 jobs. So getting career staff in this department is essential to our needs. This isn't a new thing, all right? This has been going on for a long time. It's new to these commissioners. This is the 4th study regarding fire side of things. And the studies have kind of got to come to an end at some point. The commission is willing to take this on and actually roll with it and make something happen. We have copies of the old studies, I believe, up in the office that it shows firehouses staffed in the last 10 years of planning, right? So now we're talking 10 to 20 years down the road when we should already have been at our 10-year mark, ready to build new firehouses. But we're not staffed yet in 3 of the county stations. So I want to hear from the community. I want the commissioners to hear your wants, what you expect as a taxpaying community member. You pay the same fee as everyone else does. And in a nice way, without anybody getting argumentative, express how you feel about your services, your weight of timing, the time you wait for your services, and what type of services you expect around the clock, so that they can put this into their baseline of notes. And thank you, guys. I actually went back and watched every meeting today. And at each meeting, there was only one laptop besides the guy from Fitch on the table taking notes. Now tonight, I see several, so I really appreciate that. President Bishop? Yeah.
So if we want to, I can walk this out, and this is open, so we want to hear from you, so.
I'll just want to give Eddie and Mike a chance,
Okay.
but you guys want to, opening comments from you?
Other than we have Fitch Online, we have, David Puckett, who's a fire chief, who's online with Fitch.
Okay,
So,
and does he have, the ability to project voice, or is it only listen?
we will see.
We will see.
Hi,
If
can you
you
guys,
could give us a sense, I actually kind of know it, so I could probably speak for him on where we stand in the study, but if you could give us something where we are in the study. So we've hired a consultant, Mr. Knight, who's connecting with us online right now, who is gathering data for the study. And he's going to be working with y'all to get that input provided. This is the Fitch study we've been talking about. The stage we're at right now is at the very beginning. We have not written a draft. It hasn't happened yet. Right now, it's all about data collection, talking to the experts, the folks who are in the room right now, collecting information from all the fire departments across the county, and using that data to then produce the study.
So David, do you want to try it?
yeah, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, perfect.
He's a lot smarter than I am, so let's hand it to him.
So, yeah, as you guys mentioned, I'm David Puckett. I'm with Fitch and Associates. A little bit about myself. I work over in Albemarle County, Virginia, so not too far off. I've spent most of my career here. I started as a volunteer, a couple hours away down in Bedford County, and I've spent the last 28 years or so with Albemarle. And as that system has transitioned to, I was one of the first career firefighters there, and I spent the last 13 as the deputy chief of operations. So I certainly understand the conversation you guys are having and some of the dilemmas. I'm not sure the name, but as they talked about, yeah, we're from a Fitch perspective, we're in the early stages. They're working with the 911 center to get the response data. I think there's been, as I understand it, some changes in leadership there, and so we hope to have that information very soon. And then in parallel, we're attending these meetings, stakeholder meetings, because our commitment is to be as transparent and as inclusive as we can. One, to understand the real problems you guys are facing that maybe the data itself would not reflect. And then also, there's a lot of times from a local connection, you can hear some solutions that you guys may be aware of, or some opportunities that again, we may not be able to ascertain just looking sort of at some of the data itself. So it's really important to get those insights. And then finally, the other thing that sort of happened in parallels is we've reached out to all the volunteer chiefs and presidents, each organization, to get data from you guys about your operations. And so as we wrap up all this, we'll reach back out. We may have additional information that we're looking for based off some of the feedback we get from these meetings. And if so, once we wrap up, we'll sort of consolidate that and reach back out for any additional information.
Excellent. And Mr. Knight, could you tell us about your background? Do you have a background in firefighting?
Yeah, I apologize. Dr. Knight wasn't able to attend today. So again, I'm David Puckett. I'm certainly have been in the fire service for, I guess, approximately 30 years now. Dr. Knight, though, was a firefighter and chief officer down in Florida for many, many years before he went full-time with Fitch. I'm still active in the fire service today.
Excellent. Thanks so much. And he's third generation firefighter too. So really impressive background. And for those in the back who may not have been able to hear the beginning of those comments, he was saying that we are at the early stages. We're working with the 911 center to get response data in parallel stakeholder meetings. That's meetings y'all, to understand your perspectives on the data and to learn from you, the experts, on solutions and opportunities that you know. So without further ado, let's hear from the experts. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And I'll just ask you, what are your thoughts on the challenges we face as a community? What do we need to be doing, not just 6 months from now, but also planning ahead for 10 years from now, 15 years from now? I'll open the floor up to you, and if we don't have any opening comments, I'll start with a question, but let's just open it up for now. And do we have a microphone to pass with? Excellent. Just raise your hand, we'll hand you a mic.
Somebody's got to be first.
Okay.
I don't think I need my, well, for the recording. It's the recording, all right.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Nelson Mascarenas. I've been in the fire service for 21 years. I recently retired from Fairfax County Fire and Rescue. I was a captain there. I've seen a lot of calls where timely EMS response and fire response made a huge difference in saving life, property, and stabilizing the incident. Let me tell you from my own personal experience how I made a decision in my own life recently as a citizen here, that it was a tough decision to make, but I made that decision knowing what the staffing was like here in Jefferson. July 10th, it was a summer day. These fine ladies and gentlemen have their own primary jobs to go to. I know where the ambulances are coming from. My 14-year-old son is eating Chick-fil-A and he starts choking on the sandwich. It's in the middle of the afternoon, and me being the paramedic that I am, I dislodge it from his trachea and I get it into his esophagus. He's still choking. I have the decision. I phone my wife, get on the phone, get ready to call 911, but don't call just yet because I know there's a delay in where the transport unit is coming from. So in the 5 seconds that I told you to do that, I dislodged it from the trachea, got in the esophagus, and then I drove him myself to Jefferson County. That's a decision I don't take lightly, but I know firsthand from volunteering here that there is a delay in the EMS services that we encounter in Jefferson County. With that being said, that is no snub at all the fine work these ladies and gentlemen do because of the challenges they face. The reason I stopped volunteering, you might ask, and the reason I retired was because I had open heart surgery back in February. So that's why I stopped volunteering. And as President Spain and Deputy Chief Josh mentioned, staffing and volunteerism is tough. As you know, we all have primary jobs to do, and it's really tough to find, even in the professional world, EMTs and paramedics to come work for the community. And I do think that pay makes a difference. From talking to some of the Jefferson County firefighters and EMTs, I don't think that they are paid enough compared to the surrounding jurisdiction. That is something else I do think that you guys need to take into account. Do you have any questions for me? Chief, President, do you have any questions for me? Okay. Thank you for your time.
Could you tell me a little bit more about factoring in the delay? How does that work?
So I'm used to the great state of Fairfax, where you call for an ALS unit, you have an emergency, and you get 6 people, a minimum of 6 people, of which 2 are paramedics and 4 are EMTs. They're all trained in firefighting and EMS. And they respond to your door no later than 4 to 6 minutes from the time of. And the ALS personnel is at your door within 4 minutes of the time of call. I'm used to that kind of service. Obviously, as my career went on, I wanted to move out into West Virginia. We homeschool our kids, and there's some great benefits of homeschooling our kids in West Virginia, which is one of the main reasons I moved out here. With that comes some of the sacrifices, and one of those sacrifices is the delay in ambulance services, which I knew full well coming out here. I had done my research and I knew that. Does that answer your question, sir?
It does.
Okay. The citizens of Fairfax do pay extra taxes in order to get that service, obviously. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Thanks for coming. Do you know the operating budget for Fairfax when you worked there with?
In the
Typically-
millions, in the millions.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. I mean, what are we talking, 20, 30,
Yeah.
100?
Yeah,
How long did you work there?
20, almost
Okay.
21 years.
When you came to work there, was every station staffed at that time, or what did Fairfax transition look like?
That's a great question. Every station was staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with career staff. Volunteers are viewed as an additional personnel that can ride on the units. And if they're not considered minimum staffing, but if there's enough volunteers to staff a unit, then they upstaff the unit and put an extra unit in service. So basically, all units are minimally staffed with career staff in every single station.
All right, do you know when they were able to transition to that point?
I do not.
Okay, just curious.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yep.
Right, other comment.
On a similar note, my daughter was hurt in a sled ride accident in a
Can we have your name
snowstorm.
real quick? I'm sorry.
I'm Rebecca Sullivan. I live here in Bakerton and
Yeah.
lived here for over
Sure.
40 years. My daughter was hurt in a sled riding accident years ago. And we also made the decision to pack and run with her because due to the snowstorm, this was prior to Bakerton having a fire department out here. Calling 911 would have meant an ambulance had to get here from Shepherdstown or from Harper's Ferry or from Charlestown, and between the underpass, the roads to Ingle Switch, the roads to Charlestown, the soonest with clear roads would be 15 or 20 minutes. With our four-wheel drive, we were able to notify 911 as soon as we crossed over in Maryland. My daughter called from the house and let them know we were on our way. We actually went to Frederick Hospital because we knew Jefferson didn't have a pediatric neurologist, but we were there in 27 minutes. And I do not think an ambulance could have gotten out here, gotten her to a hospital or in a helicopter in that amount of time. Now, once Bakerton Fire Department was here, a friend of my son was hurt in a ATV accident just past my driveway. Heard the accident, I responded, started CPR, volunteer fire department personnel from the Bakerton area were there within, I would say, 5 minutes. So there's a vast difference in response time. And that is, I think, one of the biggest concerns for people in the Bakerton area is that even though it seems like we're in a decently located place, it is as hard for the school buses to get here in the winter as it is to the back of Shannondale. And it's the same for the emergency services. So that right there is a huge concern for us.
Thank you. Thank you. More comments, questions?
Jacqueline Milliron. I live down the road here, and I've had two experiences. One was in town in Charlestown, and independent served me. I paid my insurance company paid $700. I paid $100 copay, and of course we paid the $39 a year. I had great service. I can't complain, but it was a real short ride, a short bumpy ride. I moved out here in 2022, the Bakerton area, and I had what I thought I was having some kind of heart problem. So instead of calling the ambulance, my husband drove me to the emergency room because at the end of the day, he would get me there fast unless we got pulled over. So my question is, when you're doing these studies, and it appears that there's maybe this is the flagship for a levy or a fee. I would like to know how you account for the demographics of an area. There are places where there's a lot of children, and then there's places where out in Bakerton area, there might be some older people demographics, and we count. And I think that's, when we get to an age and we move here, when we moved here, we had an ambulance and we had fire station, fire truck here. And now we don't have an ambulance. So we invested in our property and having those services down the road in our age. We're close to retirement. And I really think that there should be some consideration for demographics, what the population profile looks like in the areas that you're serving. If you've got an elderly population, I think maybe that needs to be weighted in your decisions on how you're going to serve. So my next question is, if somebody can answer it, and I've already spoken with Ms. Van, who's been wonderful. I would like to know how long it takes for an ambulance to get to the Bakerton area. I at first asked to my house, but I thought, well, let me just say Bakerton area, because we're all here. I have friends that are down in down in this area, and I live off of Bakerton Road, so friends there too. So I want to know how long it takes for an ambulance to get either from Harpers Ferry or Shepherdstown. And I understand there's some logistical things that go on, but an average, because in your report, we're in sector 7 and there is no information on it. Okay, so the other thing is, maybe while we're here, how long does it take fire trucks to get, to Bakerton? I don't know. From here with the volunteers, and obviously what you're looking at is wanting to have career firefighters here. I don't have a problem paying for that, but I want to know what I'm getting when I'm paying. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'll leave it at that. I might have something else later, but.
Thanks. Thank you. I think the first question was, how do we account for demographics in the study? And could we have our consultant speak to that? And could you remind me of the gentleman's name?
Mr. Puckett.
Mr. Puckett. Mr. Puckett, could you speak to that? How would we account for demographics in the drafting of the study or the collection of data or whatever your process is?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we'll do as part of the GIS analysis, the geographical analysis, is they'll pull census data by block, and a lot of that will provide us a breakdown of how old the population is in each area. And so generally speaking, you'll also see if there's a higher percentage of elderly people in that area, typically that follows a higher call volume as well, a higher demand on the system. And so it may show up in a couple ways. It may show up in the response data or the demand, as well as some of the census data of the population in that area.
Thank you. And there was
I have
another
I
question.
have a follow-up. So with census data, census tract data, they sometimes wouldn't mirror the sectors. So is there a way that you can merge the census tracking with what our 911 call center has as areas or where our fire stations are?
Yeah, they should be able to break it up based off your fire districts. Again, it won't be 100% perfect, right? Because they'll use some tools within the GIS system to sort of subdivide that census data based off the where the fire district's boundaries go. And so it won't be, person for person, but it'll be a close representation of how that would break down.
Thank you.
Thank you. And there were a couple of questions on response times, one for ambulance and the other for fire. And I'll hand it off to our staff to answer that. But as I'm handing off the microphone, I just wanted to clarify something. You said there was a sector 7 in our report that was missing information. Which report are you talking about? Mike?
Yeah, Ms. Van gave me the report that's not located on your website. And in that report, the EMS is broken down into sectors. And in particular, sector 7 is this area, Bakerton area for EMS. If you look on the chart that matches that map, it only goes up to 4. I don't see any other time response times or that for this area. So I would like to drill down and get more granular data for us here in this area. I would like to really know, can we count on an ambulance? Can we count on a fire truck? We've done a lot over the years. We've done a lot of, we've owned the property here for about a decade. And we've done burns and we've always called in here and but we've never had any trouble. We call in when we burn and we tell them when we're done. And so I just want to know, these response times.
Excellent. And thank you. I don't know that study or that report. We are generating a study and report. That's the purpose of coming together here tonight and for procuring this study. And speaking of data, there were questions about ambulance and fire response times. I'll turn it over to Chief Simon.
Yeah, I'm not sure which report you had access to, so I can't speak on that. I know we do get, like the chiefs, we get multiple reports daily that are broke down, one's strictly for EMS, one's for fire and EMS and different. There should be, each ambulance is in a zone for its home response. So you would either get zone 1 or zone 3 typically for here, because that zone 1 is Harpers Ferry, zone 3 is Shepherdstown. Within the reports, I know some of the reports, like say if you can pull it up, I'll be glad to look at it. You will also state the firebox area. So when you're listed, you guys live in station 7. So the box area would be under the 700 boxes. So you kind of have to reference both numbers. You look for the 700 boxes for the response, for the fire response area, even though it's EMS, but the ambulance where it comes from a particular zone because there is no ambulance station here. If there was an ambulance here, it would be zone 7. But they still break it down over the fire boxes. So there are still, I can track data for the 500 boxes, the 600 boxes for middle way in previous reports that we've done. So there are times out there, I could give you average times. I'd hate to throw those out there without this paper in front of me.
I can touch on that, Chief.
Yeah, I mean, I think the closest, the most direct paths, are Bakerton Road and 230. You're gonna be looking at 10 minutes to some areas, and the farthest points, probably like Borden's Lane out that way, you're probably in the 20-minute range. Because your area is so diverse.
So I will touch on with some of the time response times. From this address here at this fire station, under normal road conditions, clear night to night, and normal speeds, 10 to 12 minutes from Harpers Ferry to here. From the Shepherdstown Fire Department, there's a 2-minute difference. You're at 12 to 14-minute response time. From this station out, the majority of its run area, we're 4 to 6 minutes. Huge time difference in response. That's huge for any cardiac arrest, any heart attack, any fire. And I'll just back up here to kind of give everybody the education, right? So every department started out as volunteer. This department didn't have first check until 2015. We had one person. Every station in the county had one person. And it was a struggle then that the volunteers were still having to come to the calls, come to the station on their time off and run the call and try to make up a minimum crew, which we try to require 3 on every fire call, on every fire engine. Bakerton's a little different. We run the only boats in the county. So anytime we run to the Shenandoah River, up towards the lake or here on the Potomac, which keeps us pretty busy with Washington County, we have to rely on the volunteers in order to backfill those spots on the boat. Within the last year, we worked with DSA and they were able to give us up to 10. We have 10 employees in the county that are water trained to get on the boat with us. Our problem there lies, the boat has to leave this building and get to the water before those people can get on the boat, right, to go save someone drowning. So these are the logistical problems and the real problems that we're trying to work through with the county. Again, the study touches this department in this area a little bit different way because of the demographics. For one, you're not sitting in a department that has paid guys sitting here right now ready to leave. We have to rely on the volunteers. Your response times of 10 to 12 minutes from somewhere else is not just dangerous to you, it's dangerous to their staff. The Chief Simon is well aware of that. We've spoken together to the commission against these type of staffing levels, which boils down to funding. However, they take care of that, that's their problem, but they need to support the funding mechanism to get us the people we need. There are NFPA codes and OSHA regulations that we have to follow as a fire department. Since losing our staffing to the county, we have remained 100% volunteer with the highest scratch rate within the county, meaning we fail a lot on calls, especially during the business hour. We had an accident very recently here within several feet of the station. And the guy waited 14 minutes for an ambulance to get here. And the training and experience of some of the responders, they had to rely on until the ambulance moved of just one person that could show up that was available. So that itself speaks volumes to me. Not long after our ambulance was removed from the station with zero staffing, one of our members had a newborn baby at home. It was right out back. The baby went into cardiac arrest. Sorry. So I live about 8 minutes fast driving from here, and I beat anybody here, and I came from Jefferson House. So that alone was enough for me to get pissed off and upset about it. That something needed to change. There's a little bit more important now than it was before then. So that can happen to a newborn baby. A guy who is a career fellow down the road, he volunteers for this community, and he had to go through the same thing anybody else gone through, and that was waiting on help to get it. So I know we're low call volume. We average anywhere between 250, 360 calls a year, depends on how busy the water is for that year. Our busiest time on the water, it was 107 3 years ago. COVID really flipped the script on people being out and about in nature and a lot of visitors coming in. But when you talk the demographics of our area, I want to touch on that a minute. We have several daycares here. We have 8 churches. We have a store. We have a lot of development groups starting to come our way that we also can support on a volunteer basis. One of the daycares I have personally been to twice for emergencies. They've also had to wait on ambulance to come from other areas. The only problem with waiting on ambulances to come from other areas is we don't know if they're already tied up or not. ESA staffing and their lieutenants are trained in resource management. So if the ambulance at Harpers Ferry, which is your closest from here back to 340, if they are already busy, then Shepherdstown would be your next closest. And if they're busy, the lieutenant would then advise the dispatch of the next appropriate, and or if he knows someone's clearing the hospital, who may just be 4 minutes closer than someone else, right? So people are listening to the radio, and they are trying to get you the service as quick as possible. The point is, just like anywhere else you go that's growing, it's quicker response, safer for people. You mitigate an incident a lot faster, 4 to 6 minutes from the firehouse than you do waiting for them to respond wherever they're at. Staffing. I look at the commissioners because I mean you're going to hear the same thing, right? At every public meeting, you've heard it. Staffing. We need people. We're no different than any other firehouse that needs the people, but he needs the budget. He needs the budget to do it. And I don't know if that's a fee, a levy. You put it in their hands to vote on it, or you force it, one or the other. But at the end of the day, people need a service when they call 911. The excuses of being a low call volume fire department, in my opinion, is easy to follow. So you can worry about something else. And I'm not taking a shot at the chief. This has been the excuse prior to Chief Shine's position, just so we're clear. But our problem out here is not only time, but we are high risk, low volume. So our calls that come in are higher priority type medical calls and fire calls. They just don't happen as often as they may in town where the population's a lot heavier. As she spoke, they have a lot of older people that come here. But not only do we cover the retirement areas, but in the summertime, we pick up with medical emergencies because of river community. We have the camp and the outside day park down here on Potomac Street Extension with the zip lines and things like that that we cover. And we have the side of the river that we cover. and everything in between. Right? Kids are home during summer break. Everybody's out and back hiking, doing yard work. We've had a lot of incidents out here that are probably more serious than most incidents in the center of town where everything's got 8 people for instance, you know? So when you get to talking about some of these things due to community, and we're asking these questions, I feel for them. I truly have always believed in public service and a timely response. I don't care how it happens, it just has to happen, right? I get mad at my own volunteers, and when I was chief, I'm like, where were we at? I was at work, I get it, so was I, but I had fun. You know what I mean? We have to step up and do things. So to the community, we're trying to care, but we have to have your support, and we have to have this body support 100%. We can't keep putting community at risk. We can't keep putting your employees at risk. We had a house fire right back here in Glen Haven last winter. I was an employee of the county at that time, one shift. I came from Harpers Ferry. I drive like a bat out of hell, and it still took me 8 minutes to get here. This department responded with one volunteer outdoor on a fire truck by himself, who got there and struggled until we showed up with 2 people. And then Charlestown showed up with 2 people. And then Jefferson showed up with 3 people and a volunteer. So it's not good. It's not a good situation to be in. I don't know if any of you have experienced a house fire, but when we got here, this house was gone. This is the second home in Glen Haven that has burned to the foundation with people here at the fire. So manpower is a huge issue. And while we talk about what's 10 years down the road, the fire departments in Jefferson County have been talking about this for the last 10 to 12 years with prior commissions. So to sit here and truly trust, at least for me, that this study is the one all be all, I hope it is. But I'm leery about it, right? I'm in a position of distrust with it. Steve, he knows. Not saying that these guys don't care. I don't want to feel like I'm putting off that real meter. But we do have to do a lot better.
Well, I have a track record for 1-0 right now. So I've been on the commission. We've had one study and we acted on it. So I certainly do have intentions to act on this. You know that.
I hope you do. But you got to listen to these people.
And Josh he did bring up a point, and he said mention a fire fee or a levy and putting it in your hands to vote on it. I wish I would have asked this question at every meeting, but how many of you here by showing of hands would vote in favor of a fire levy on the ballot or a fire fee on the ballot? I don't know. We don't know yet. We don't know how much. Okay.
A lot more information.
Okay.
Because right now, frankly, I don't think you want me to.
Yeah. Let's get a microphone so we can hear. Thank you.
Frankly, right now, if you put something like that on the ballot, I don't think it would pass. I probably would not vote for it without a whole lot more information, because there is a lot of, this is going to sound harsh, but there's a lot of distrust with throwing things on the ballot and not getting enough information out to the public, not educating the public what it is they're voting on. So people are falling into the habit of voting no, because it's better not to have it than to try to unring a bell. So, you know, if that's something that's coming down the pipe, you better start educating people. And follow up with what Josh was saying about the demographics of this area. I came here prepared to look out and challenge the people here to start volunteering and getting active with their local department. You know, give some money, help out with the local volunteer fire department instead of paying taxes down the road. But if you look around, how many people do you see here that are young enough to actually volunteer with this fire department? The demographics show they're not here. The young people that are young enough to do that, they live in the development and they work in the city. So they don't get home until 8 o'clock at night. They leave at 7 a.m. and their weekends are spent mowing their grass or trying to recover from a long day of working or commuting an hour and a half to 2 hours to and from work. So our demographics do not support having many people volunteer more, so there's gonna have to be some compensation for the staffing that is, fair and accurate for them. So, but to the residents of this area, the response times are not static, they're lifeline. When we call 911 from out here, we're not calling because of sprained ankles. We're usually calling because somebody has had a catastrophic heart attack, a stroke, a big fall. And now we've got river riders. So there's more and more. I don't anticipate the river rescues ever going down. They're only going to go up and up and up.
Ms. Sullivan, I just want to say thank you for your honesty and your directness on the levy. I think it's really easy for everyone to say, well, yeah, well, just assess a fee and pay for everything, right? But we need the details. What's the money going to go towards? How much is it going to be? Can't unring a bell, as you said. I think that was really well put. We were talking about Fairfax County earlier. We don't know what the figure is. Just to give you a sense, I mean, a couple numbers that were tossed around for 50 million, 100 million. The entire county budget is $40 million for everything that we do. So if that's what the fire budget is in Fairfax County, that's larger than every other department in Jefferson County combined. We had another comment? Commissioner Keys.
I just wanted, but if you want to go first, well,
After you, ma'am.
Okay, so Eddie Gokenauer, the president of the commission in Berkeley County, they've done things a little bit differently. So they raised their ambulance fee up to, I believe, 110 per household. And in addition to that, they also enacted a commercial fee per square foot. And on the fire, they do a fire fee as well. So they have the ambulance fee and then they have the fire fee. And I believe
Ours is 35,
39.
39.
So what they've also done is they've added a per square foot basis on their ambulance fee. And then for the fire fee, they put it out as a referendum, but instead of a levy, that's not voted on every 5 years. So it truly allows the constituents to vote on it. I believe their fire fee was voted on last May. And the hope from them is that this encapsulates both the commercial side in our county, but also the residential. And they're able to do it, I think, between up to, and I don't have Wi-Fi, so I had notes with Eddie, but for a per square foot base for residential, I believe the starting for the fire fee is 35 and it goes up to 65. And that's on a per square foot of residential. So if you have a 1,600 square foot house, you are probably on the lower end around 35. And then if you have a 3,000 square foot house, you're probably at that 65 per annual. So that's what their hope is to, from Commissioner Eddie Gokenauer said, is they're trying to help both the volunteer side and staffing side. And so they currently have 2 full-time 24/7 in every of their 5 stations. And within the next 6 months, they're going to deploy a 3rd. So that's what they're doing. And he's provided a lot of really great feedback that, of course, I'm going to take into account. And I hope this fire state will also take into account. So, we can learn from them and understand what works and what doesn't work and how we can improve our system here. So, but
And I want to comment on the differences between Berkeley and Jefferson later. I don't want to keep you waiting, sir. Why don't you go ahead?
I appreciate it. And ma'am, you said it very well earlier as far as educating and understanding where things go. My concern is that I pay the same ambulance fee here that everyone else does in the 7 box, but that goes to Shepherdstown and Harpers Ferry for those ambulances because we don't have one in the 7 box. So before we would vote or I would support some sort of levy or emergency services fee, I don't want to know that that service is my area too. It's not going to go to help Shepherdstown. It's not going to go to help Harpers Ferry, and we're over here. I live in zone 3, box 700, and it's going to take 15 minutes after my wife calls for an ambulance to show up in my house. I've had to make the decision, like a lot of other people here, that Casevac is my best option to a medical center, whether it's JMC, BMC, or up to Frederick. That's decisions I haven't had to make since I was overseas, and that's sad. The other thing that concerns me is the shifting demographics. Out here, we have a lot of people that are becoming retired, a lot of people moving into that stage of life, and then commuters. Young folks work in town. They don't work, they drive, ma'am, like you said, hour and a half. I mean, you described my week coming home and trying to deal with cutting the grass and playing with the kids. That's it.
So we do need that career staffing, as Deputy Chief Smith and Chief Spain have said over and over again, we need career staff. That means that we need to pay the money to get it. Yes, as long as we're getting that. I don't have a problem with that, and I think a lot of people here would not, as long as we're not overlooked and that money goes elsewhere in the county.
Thank you. One thing I wanted to comment on was the difference between Jefferson County and Berkeley County. Berkeley County looks vastly different. Their tax revenue is totally different. One thing y'all may not be familiar with is that we tax residential at a low rate. We tax commercial at a high rate. That's across the state. When a commercial development comes in, it gives you double your tax revenue. And the services that commercial development needs are almost nothing when it comes to fiber. There are some exceptions, but residential is, when people move in, you need a lot more public service, right? In Jefferson County, we've been having a lot of residential growth and almost no commercial growth. But that's the source of the tax problem. I hear some laughing. Right, yeah. So y'all are familiar with the problem. Berkeley County is the opposite. They got plenty of growth over there. So we don't have balanced growth in Jefferson County. And that's the source of the tax problem there. We've got to balance it out one way or another, or the other way to do it is what Northern Virginia did, which is they just jacked up their taxes. And that's, one political party believes in that. It's not our party, that's fine. But that is what it is. But that's the source of the problem. Our 10 biggest employers in Jefferson County, we love them. But out of our 10 biggest employers, 9 out of 10 don't pay taxes. We love government work. We love education. It's a wonderful thing. But if you're not paying taxes, you can see how this causes a problem, right? Because folks in this room, all over the county, we need those services. We've got to balance this out in the long term. So the revenue keeps up with our residential population. That's something that we're looking at as a commission, trying to balance out the commercial growth with the residential. Berkeley doesn't have that problem. Berkeley just says, build it all, and that'll bring in the revenue. Now that has its own set of problems, but I just want to acknowledge the difference in tax rate. Yeah.
Taxes
Eddie?
and education.
Can you speak in the mic so we can record?
Yes.
What are you talking about that the government employees don't pay taxes? And that the education,
Well, if you take the federal government, for example, which we're right here in Harpers Ferry, but there's a lot of federal government,
the agency?
yes,
Is that
ma'am,
what you're
and like the Park Service, once that land, I'll use Schoolhouse Ridge, I just drove by on the way here. Once that goes into the federal government's hands, they don't pay property taxes on that. We, county, does not receive any money from that land anymore. In Harpers Ferry, there's a lot of land that's tied up in the federal system. You have, the Park Service, then you also have U.S. Customs.
And then what you need to think about is how the county budget is funded. So how do we pay for the people over at ESA? We don't get any income tax. All of the income tax you pay goes to the state of West Virginia, doesn't come to the county. So what funds that budget is property tax. That's the largest contributor to the budget, is property tax. And so when you have a university, it's a nonprofit, or you have a federal government agency, that property, that land doesn't pay anything in order to receive any of the services it receives. So National Park Service, everyone visiting the park may buy things outside the park, but the actual land doesn't pay any property tax. So we provide those EMS services. We provide mutual aid for law enforcement for free. That's what happens when you have a large property owner that doesn't pay property tax.
Okay, I just wasn't understanding that you were making the point that it was the land facilities, that the governmental facilities, the education facilities were, that's correct, not the employees.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Kevin was asking for a question. Oh, yes, sir. Sorry, we'll get back to you.
My name is John Gordon, and I live at Glen Haven, down over the hill. I understood when you started, you went some feedback, folks who live in the area. And I did have a personal experience. I was really heartbroken when you took her ambulance away from me. I'm 93 years old. A significant other was 90 at the time, and 3 years ago, we needed help. I'm a retired military, and I called for help. And within 5 to 7 minutes, there was somebody from this fire department at my doorstep down there helping my significant other. They were treating her. They had the ambulance there, and they knew I was just panicked. I didn't know what to do. And I'm saying that I wanted to give you my experience was outstanding. This fire department is, for me, at least because of this personal experience, and even if I hadn't had it, but what a wonderful service. 5 to 7 minutes they were there. They had her down at the hospital. Unfortunately, that was the last time I saw her alive. And it was because of this fire department here. And I said, it breaks my heart when they took the ambulance away. And now you're thinking about maybe possibly closing this. That's doubly breaking my heart. So I think this, I know there's all these problems on finance, but I just wanted to give you some favorable feedback, how much I personally appreciate what this fire department here at Bakerton did for my family. And we were both 90 years old, and we were in panic mode. And your gentleman came in within, I say, 5 to 7 minutes. Thank you, Bakerton Fire Department.
And sir, this commission has no intention of closing the Bakerton Fire Department. That is an independent corporation. They operate on their own. That's not an ability we have.
And I'd like to add something to that as well, sir. This commission did not vote to take away the ambulance either out of this fire department too. So that was not a decision that this commission made either.
You mentioned levies and you mentioned taxes. Is there a difference as far as what you mentioned, the 10 biggest landowners and people here? So federal agencies, the educational institutions, would they have to pay a levy even if they are exempt from the property tax department?
Who can explain how the fees work?
That is a percentage of taxes. So, they would. Obviously, the federal government would not pay. If it's a levy, they would not pay because it goes from the tax bill. So as far as any government agency, they would not pay the levy. And we do follow.
I want to make clear, I'm not picking on our top 10 guys, employers here. I just use that as an example. The real problem is, on every individual decision, or, a commercial development coming in or a residential development coming in, it stands on its own. The point I'm making is when you do it over and over and over again, like 10,000 times over 15 years, you keep allowing residential and you keep blocking commercial, that's when you get the problem we have. It's not, I don't want to single anybody out. I'm just saying this is a long-term trend over 15 years that got us where we're at.
But what Berkeley County has done is they have, and I have my notes pulled up, they have 7 cents per square foot charge for commercial entities because they had a study done to understand the call volumes, and their big commercial players in Berkeley County were a significant call volume. So they have an annual rate that they charge with that fire fee that goes towards non-residential. So that's part of their operational budget that was voted by the constituents as a referendum, but doesn't get voted on every 5 years. So that's the source.
I'd like to add that even with Berkeley County, as they said earlier, we've got to watch compare because they run 2 separate identities, right? They run the fire side, then they run the EMS individually. But they also have their fees in place, which the fire board here can do. You are the acting fire board. The moment that the commission took over the ESA, they chose to be the fire and EMS board of Jefferson County. So those fees fall between your laps to have to do. Respectfully, Mr. President, this problem existed long before anyone decided that we need more commercial to support our fire and EMS, right? So while I understand that's a huge part of the problem, this problem existed before this community, this county even was welcome. anything bigger than a Walmart store. So I think if the community was educated, the entire county was educated properly, and you explain to them what their fees would be going towards and what type of services they would be provided, and it was 24/7. I think you would get community support out of 90% of the taxpayer. We went through this when we talked about the original fee about 12 years ago. There was public education after public education after education. It's almost 7 nights a week at some firehouse. And that study laid out 4 options to the Jefferson County Commission. You know which one they chose? Which one they chose? The lowest one, $80. You know what they did to that? By show of hands, I want to cut this down to $39. That's what happened. This study is going to do the same thing. It's going to tell you where you need to put people, what the response time should be, how many guys you need to hire, and what it's going to cost. Here are your options, A, B, C, and D. We can't repeat that. That's what I keep harping on. We cannot repeat that same problem, because if we do, we're going to still be sitting here 10 to 20 years saying, 20 years ago, we had this argument. All right. And because Berkeley keeps being brought up, I wouldn't throw out there that even the slowest station in Berkeley County has 2 guys 24/7, and they don't run half the calls as this slowest station. So that's something there to also.
Thank you.
Yeah, to Josh's point, we really don't have to reinvent the wheel here. We're doing through the same process right now as Berkeley County went through. We're going through the same process that Loudoun County went through. At one time a day, Loudoun County was 100% volunteer, just like this county was. Many of y'all had stories where, you know, you jumped in your car, in your vehicle and ran to the hospital instead of waiting. I've born and raised here my whole life. We had 3 incidents on our farm, and we did the same thing. We threw them in the truck and we took them to the hospital instead of waiting on the ambulance. I'm sorry.
That's been a falter in your study already.
Sure it is. But this is over the last 25 years. But so what we're doing here is collecting data and trying to see how to serve the citizens the best. As you all know, or may not know, we have our staffing is dual trained. So our staff can jump on an ambulance or they can jump on a fire truck. Berkeley County is a little bit different. They have, as Josh mentioned, they have fire fighters and they have EMTs and paramedics. Paramedics do not ride fire trucks, correct, Josh? They do? Okay. Berkeley County. No, not Berkeley. So we're just trying to figure out the best thing to, get the best bang for what we can here in Jefferson County. Again, we certainly do not pay the taxes. We don't have the tax base that Loudoun County has. Our annual budget is about 40 million. What's that?
4 billion.
And Loudoun County is 4 billion. So it's a huge difference. So that's why we're trying to figure out the best way to operate here in Jefferson County to give the citizens the best service that we possibly can. And that's why we're doing this study. So I don't know if there's any more questions. I'll turn over some. What's that?
On that point, which counties do y'all think do it?
Yeah, which counties do you all think do it right? I mean, we have, we're kind of sitting here between Berkeley. We have, just about everywhere around us have some type of paid, service. So if y'all have any opinions on that, we'd love to hear from you.
Defer that to the experts with there, put them on the spot, because you have more experience with West Virginia side of the house.
That question's been asked at almost every meeting, and
My question for the microphone this time is Chief Spain or Chief Josh, what counties in West Virginia are doing it right as far as staffing goes and retention?
everybody's doing it right in their own way. They do use studies for their fire fees and things like that, but not really for their layout of what they need. We're not being the experts here either. We are here to tell you what our needs are, where we struggle, and the services we try to provide, and we continue being able to provide all set apart. Our closest one to look at, as I've stated in other meetings, was probably Frederick County, Virginia, being that they operate in a very similar dual trained basis. And what we mean by that, guys, is everybody who works for the ESA is at lowest in EMT and firefighter. Some of them can be hired without the fire class and they have a year to get it and they receive their training and then they can get on the fire truck and make up staffing. Our paramedics here are dual certified as well. So if an ambulance call comes out first, that's what they take. And if a fire call comes out first, that ambulance goes out of service and they take the fire truck in most situations. Within the last 3 weeks, it's been a very unfortunate in this county, but between this little 3-week break that we've had between these meetings, the county has been overtaxed on services. We had a double fatal house fire on the mountain 2 weeks ago. We put every ambulance except one out of service in Jefferson County because the staffing had to get on the fire truck to make sure the fire trucks got there. The first in fire truck came from Charlestown at 9 minutes and 52 seconds. This is not a hit, but yet a real example. The first fire truck from Blue Ridge Mountain, 4 hours, because they didn't have staffing to get out the door. The engine that was dispatched due to that call didn't respond because they didn't have staffing. Company 5, right? Their volunteers who got off work early that day were able to go get a fire truck 4 hours early to come out and try to help clean up the scene and relieve some of the first in crews, which had to get put in service to get ambulances put back in service. And God bless, those lieutenants at ESA were there. And, you know, this EMS is so important to everybody and it's beat down their heads and ambulance. But fires also has to be taken care of. You know, at that moment in time, when that fire, you couldn't do anything to bring up his ambulance crew because his ambulance crew showed up on fire trucks, had to put out a fire that was a raging fire, literally, and then ended up with people trapped. So that took a 10-hour day, if not then some. The decision was made to quickly call in our mutual aid counties to try to backfill the ambulance, right? Most of the time in this county, we have 8 fire. We have very little ambulance calls. I don't know why it's so lucky that way, but it is. But here recently, it's not been so great. During that fire, there were 5 ambulance calls coming in, and they were trying to get backfilled. The management was trying to call back people to come to work. That takes time to get people to answer the phone or a message and come in from home, right? So we had to call other counties in. And when I asked for Clark County to be moved to the county, they were already being dispatched to another call. That's how quick everything was happening. Same thing with the house fire in Claysville Pike, a month and a half ago before that. We used up every ambulance but one in the county. The volunteers were supplementing ESA. It's how it's pretty much going for the longest time. And now we're both hurting equally. They need the help. They need manpower and we need it. We're relying on the county to provide them, right? They need the people for your budget to give to us, to give to them. And it doesn't matter if it's fire or ambulance. They both need to be squared away. Training comes to be a big thing of that. The reason I bring that up, the combine fire out in Bakerton went into the cornfield, right? That fire, that combine fire, took up almost every department in this county. Volunteers from here, volunteers from other stations, and most families. Training becomes an issue on some employees because you can walk into a fire station and these guys are so short-staffed. They can't do driver for driver, right? So if you're the driver, Steve, and you call out today, they can't send me there because I'm a clear driver. So you might get these two who are EMS only, can't drive a fire truck. That's not a ferry service either. That's something they struggle with trying to do around the financial issue. So while that combine was burning and we had the whole county tied up, there could have been a fire in Bakerton, Charlestown, or Harpers Ferry. And that crew sitting in Harpers Ferry, either one of them could drive a fire truck. So they were, the community itself continued to struggle and wait very long time to get someone else to respond.
What would you suggest changing?
That is a training issue that gets in through the administration of ESA, but the more people, the better practices. You're going to hear me say more people, and the staffing is a need. It's a dire need. It's not
Okay.
10 to 20 years down the road. It's tomorrow. We need it tomorrow.
We need honesty.
We
about
needed it
so-
last Tuesday on the mountain, right? Like you need people.
All right, so I've got a few things. The comment was made that the commission did not vote to take that out of the department. That false, and if it's not, I would love to hear who did that question. The comment keeps going off of Berkeley County, Jefferson County taxes fees. To build a house in this county, for simple math, you're a minimum of $10,000 per ground. Where is that money going? And if it's only for new services, then it's up to the commission to change that, to supplement what's currently here and supply what's currently here with needs of current.
I'll jump on this. So state code requires that we use impact fee for only growth. And so if we were to build a new high school, we have 5 quadrants that we use, and fire is one of them. We have our sheriff, we have our schools, parks and rec, and administrative use. And so any of those 5 quadrants, the only way we can use the impact fee money, and each of those classifications has for both residential growth, for breaking new ground, and non-residential, so commercial, and those have a different quadrant of how they ascertain. Some is per square foot, some is per room, depends, like hotels are per room. You have a warehouse that would be per square foot, so that varies. But for the residential side, the way that all the money is used is only growth. So if you were to build a new high school, you could absorb the school portion of that for a new high school. But if they were to want to repair or fix a school with impact fee money, just under state code, we can't do that legally. There's no workaround. And so if you needed, if we needed a new ambulance and we own it and we don't lease it, then that could be something that an impact fee could go towards in theory. For example, our sheriff's department, they went to a leasing model over the past few years. So under leasing, it's very hard or difficult to use impact fee money for expansion of leased vehicles because we don't own them. So if the sheriff would like to add 2 more to his fleet, he can't use impact money from it. So if we own the vehicles, then we could in theory use impact fee money to grow our. So, and then, but you're right, we're just under 10,000 for impact fee. But that is something that was very supported in the community, and it goes towards those 5 quadrants. As we forecast our growth, we're able to absorb appropriately growth to pay for growth. So I think it's 2 different things here, and I agree with you that you want to see us be adequately staffed and you want these things covered today, but impact fees does projections over the next 10 years so that we don't leave money on the table with our growth. So most of the growth within our county is actually within Charlestown and Ransett, which is they have their own zoning ordinance that allows them to grow. And as a county commission, we can't really tell them how to govern their zoned areas, but what we do have control of is the impact fee. So by them growing, say they have a 5,000 home development that's approved in Charlestown, if we have 5,000 per year for impact fee, it would be X amount that we'd have over the next 10 years as they build that out. And if we, we recently increased it to just under 10,000, that's going to come to the county as a whole in those 5 quadrants, and that will help us leverage our growth. And so I do, very much incline that.
It's about 80% that's approved by the municipalities, not the county. So that does, I think it's a huge factor.
And that may be true with with it being the city ordinances and stuff like that. However, the money goes to the county. Berkeley County doesn't have an impact fee. It costs 3 times as much to live in Jefferson County as it does in Berkeley County. It doesn't matter. Between tax, fee, price of housing. My daughter, she's renting a house in Charlestown, looking to buy a house in Jefferson County. $125,000 more for the same exact house on about the same amount of land in Berkeley, actually less land than what she could buy in Berkeley for $225,000. She was looking at a 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch on an acre and a quarter for $225,000. You can't even buy a quarter acre in Jefferson County for $25,000, let alone have a house.
Well, there's no doubt we have the highest cost of living in the state. 2 years ago, the average cost of a house in Jefferson County was $377,000, which was the highest in the state. McDowell County had the lowest. I want to say their average home cost was around $50,000, put things in perspective. Berkeley County just enacted a impact fee. They realized that they need that as well. An impact fee cannot be used for salaries. It can only be used for capital, and you have to own the capital that you're purchasing. We cannot use impact fees to help Bakerton Fire Company buy a fire truck. We could not use impact fee money to pay for ambulances until we owned them. So we redid the calculation on our impact fee, and we were not able to collect the capital from the ambulance fees 3 years ago because we didn't own ambulances at that time. Now we are. So our EMS fee, I don't have it in front of me, but I want to say it went from about $40 to about $500 because we own them. We own the ambulances now. And again, like Commissioner Keys has said, that goes for growth. It's not for replacement. So if we have 12 ambulances and we need to replace one, we cannot use the impact fee money to pay for it. If we have 12 ambulances, we need to increase to 13, we can use impact fee money to pay for that. And you had another question about the ambulance that was here. I was the only commissioner who was on the board at that time. During the time we were doing the pitch study, the ambulance study, before that study was completed, this station stopped running calls with their ambulance. That's all I can tell you. I don't know why, but it wasn't a county decision to take this, not run calls out of the station. That was a company 7 decisions for all I know. I don't know the backstory behind that.
Done, I can give it. Yeah. So we did continue our ambulance service. Bakerton as another fire department away. When we had our one person here from the county, Bakerton was under a strict rule where they had to wait for someone else to come. So that ambulance showed up with a county employee at your house. They had to wait on a guy to show up here in the county chase car, make up the staffing and take you to the hospital. So Bakerton, through the income of the ambulance service at that time that we had, hired our own people, part-timers, to help work on the weekends along the side of the county people. And once that was up and running for about 6 to 7 months, we expanded that into our 2 busiest weeknights during the week side also, so that we were able to continue to put an ambulance in the street pretty quick. The people we had, not all of them were EMTs though, that we hired ourselves. Some of them were just drivers and firefighters. Where that paid off was getting to the calls in time. There was a house fire on Maple Avenue. Our part-time employee that night was on scene first by himself for only 3 minutes before the other ones got there, and he was able to put water on the fire and get things in check. There was a difference made with staffing here. Where we got to our ambulance being taken out was we were given notice that our county staffing was being pulled from here, and the intent to revamp ESA's manpower issue. So that was to take the county employee from the station and put them in Harpers Ferry. In the meantime, the EMS transition was starting to take place where the county purchased our. Never at any time did Bakerton Fire Department stop running EMS calls as long as the ambulance was owned and operated by Bakerton Fire Department. Once Michelle Gordon, then a county accountant, came out here and gave us the purchase agreement to buy our ambulance through the ambulance transition. And that was an agreement at the time of the check delivery that unit was to be pulled from service. And that Harpers Ferry and Jefferson would start covering the area as per the plan moving forward that we still live in today. So no, at no point did we terminate providing EMS service. We ran up until the last day that we were able to legally, while we owned the unit. After that, services had to stop. We did attempt to get our volunteers to try to do the first responder route. where the EMT could still work with the county, volunteer through the county services and get here to help. Problem is, we don't have a lot of those people here anymore. We focus on fire, water, hazmat, and a few other specialties that aren't given throughout the county. The EMTs we have here work elsewhere. They don't have the time to specifically come here and volunteer. And this department at that point chose not to pick up the additional licensing and fees to move forward with being a insured EMS provider outside of the county. We worked hard to try to do that our first 3 or 4 months into it. There was a lot of internal issues between the county and the volunteers, and there were issues that weren't bad. They just couldn't figure out who could be covered by what, right? It wasn't a fight. It was, can we volunteer under the county's license? There was a lot of things there to work out that took a little bit. So when that happened, a lot of that just kind of faded off. And in a sense, the county commission then chose to take over EMS services. And when they did, they were told by all 7 fire departments, when you do this, it's your baby. You have to own it. You have to handle it. And don't give it back and don't ask for credit. Because this was something that, Steve, am I right? Did Marshall not tell you that? No, I believe all of us did.
Yeah.
So when it got picked up by the county, it was specifically their problem, 100%, and they needed to make sure it was maintained because that's how it was sold to us. That county commission then said, by state code, we are responsible for providing EMS service. And that's what this plan was, and that's what we intend to do. And right now, that plan is failed. It's falling on its face. We cannot keep up with the amount of calls in this volume, both sides of the fence. And we can't keep doing it either.
Yeah, the state code is very clear. State code says that the county commission is responsible for ambulance, and the volunteers are responsible for fire. That code has been in place for a very long time. And essentially, that's why back in 2021, we did the Fitch study and we did the transition with the ambulances. And that's the sole purpose why the county commission bought the ambulances, because of what's in state code. So that goes back to main code, why we did that. Several reasons, but that was one of them. Again, that was a study, took about a year. Took a year and a half from start to finish to complete that study. And as you know, we have units in 4 stations right now. And just to give you an idea, Chief Simon, what was the cost of our last ambulance? Was that around 350?
380.
380. Okay, so an ambulance costs $380,000. To run an ambulance 24/7, you need an 8 person. And average with benefits and everything, we're probably shooting a little high, but about 100,000 a head. So one ambulance, a 24-hour ambulance, is $800,000 for salaries per year and $380,000 to get it out the door, get it in the door for service. So
That's just
the unit.
That's just the unit. And you still have all the equipment that's on that unit, which skyrockets that number by probably another 50%.
yeah. And so now we're here talking about supplementing. Again, the state code says the volunteers are responsible for fire, county's responsible for ambulance. We're only talking about helping the volunteers supplement for staffing. So staffing, help me out, guys, we're in the fire service, but they say you can get away with 3 people on a truck. They prefer 4, correct, Josh? Okay, so if you have, let's use 4. If it's 4 firefighters to have a fully staffed truck, that's 16 persons to have a 24-hour crew. If you still use the same numbers at 100,000 a person, that's 1.6 million to staff 1 fire truck 24 hours, 24/7. And again, we're in a county where we have a $40 million budget, unlike, some of our neighboring counties, they have a lot larger budget. So that's what we're here trying to figure out the best way to serve Jefferson County. And that's why we have dual our EMTs That's why they ride fire trucks. And that's why our fire guys drive the ambulances, because they're dual trained. We figure you get a better bang for your buck that way for taxpayers' money. So that's how we do it now. I don't know what this study's going to say. We'll figure it out when we get it in about 6 months. But it could say we still need dual trained or we need dedicated. I don't know. We'll see.
Steve, I'm glad you brought it to that point because I think that's the crux of the issue, right? Deputy Chief Smith, you raised the point of, okay, well, if you don't have the staff, it's not gonna work, right? Commissioner Stopper, you raised the point, well, we've got a responsibility under the code. Commission has to find the ambulance, all right? How do you balance these two? That's why we're doing this study, to look in the long term. You can't just say, well, we just need to spend more, because that doesn't answer the question. If you just buy ambulances that are not staffed, you're not solving the problem. We have to find a balance and we have to plan ahead for the long term. That's why we're here today. This is not the end of the discussion. This is the beginning of the discussion. We're an hour and a half in. I know folks want to get going, but we're happy to stick around and listen to anybody who wants to continue talking. Have it back and forth with the commissioners. We're certainly here to listen. I want to raise this point. Like I just said, you're going to have to balance the purchase of ambulances, the purchase of vehicles, the purchase of apparatus with actually having the staff to operate. And it's a complex question. It's not just, well, let's spend some more money. Let's get the last round of questions or comments from the audience. One person has a microphone, 2 hands are up. Count to 3, 4, 5. Okay, well, we might be here a little bit longer. That's okay. That's why we're here. Nope, you're not locked in. If you need to get going, it's 7:30. Please go ahead. But those who want to stay, we're here to listen to you, and we'll go around and then we'll close with our consultant who will tell us about our next steps, and then closing comments from the chief. Ma'am, Ms. Sullivan?
Yes, you brought up a minute ago the impact fees and the quadrants. So can you clarify, where does Bakerton fall in that? We build a house, we build an in-law suite, and we have to pay an impact fee on it. Where do we fall in those quadrants? Does Bakerton qualify for any kind of impact fee spend out here, or is this all in Charlestown, Shepherdstown, Harpers Ferry, Grant?
The impact, I'll try to take a step back. The impact fee, it's charged the same across the entire county. There's no.
Where's the spending?
The spending. We
Right.
have.
What does Bakerton, we're talking about Bakerton right now, what if anything, as far as infrastructure spending can be spent here in Bakerton?
I'll just say the lion's share of your impact fee goes to the schools. About 70% of it goes to your school system. Now, granted, you don't have a school in Bakerton, but I guess your closest school is probably Harpers Ferry Middle or in Shipley. But that's where the lion's share goes to. And then it's broken down into EMS fee, Parks and Rec, and help me out, Ed.
Yeah. So we have a school impact fee, which is about 6,700. I'm just estimating. And then law enforcement, 394. We have Parks and Rec, which is 1,179. EMS, which is 509. And admin facilities, which is 668. And that is for a single family dwelling, for a new build of a new house.
So there's nothing going towards infrastructure with building as far as roads and emergency services and that kind of thing. We're already paying an impact fee. Well, we're paying the levy for the schools, and now our impact fee, if local people pay an impact fee, it's going towards the schools, which I said on the school board when they were building Washington High School. The figures they were using were 10 years old. So the school was already, at the time they opened the front door, overcrowded.
Sure. Well, I can speak on both your points. So we recently did a impact fee study, and the study was started before I joined the commission. I was elected in November, and we fully voted, I think, in January for the commercial side. And what we, as a commission, we voted is to 100% adopt what the study presented. So the study presented these rates for both commercial and the residential section. So we have a non-residential impact fee schedule as well, and that's broken down into several quadrants of different types of commercial entities. What the study, the impact fee study had listed is that, and this is their words, not mine, but I'll try to repeat it as well as I can, but they looked at the growth within the elementary schools, and my kids go to public schools. They've gone to Shipley and Griswood. So, but elementary and middle school have not seen a significant growth. But what was noted in that study is that we are both overcrowded in Jefferson High and Washington High. So
They were overgrown 12 years ago, so.
right.
Of course, they're
I hear
overgrown
you.
now.
I hear you. So, you know, so this 6,700 or so is fully absorbing into a third high school. So what that study presented is this pot of money for the school side is going towards, at some point, developing a third high school, which is what the school board also spoke in favor of.
And I don't have a problem with helping with the school system and things like that, but I would much rather see money being spent on infrastructure that's going to the health and safety of our residents and not to Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec could come in, you know, down the road. That could be, you know, public-private sector money. But that is kind of shocking to find out that Parks and Rec is pulling money and there's nothing being done to do the infrastructure to prepare for all these homes. And my other question is, with the study that you all are doing, you're talking about the demographics and using the census data. What time frame is that census data? Is that the latest census data? And it's already out of date. How are they going to project that forward 2, 3, 4 years? Because this study is going to take more than a year to get done.
I would imagine census data is updated, the census track, I use it all the time with my professional work, that it's updated every year. So by mid-year, you usually have 2025 projections of what the current census track has. But I assume the study will use the growth patterns over the past several years and then use that as a growth projection. And then one of the points you brought up too was roads. And that's a very important topic. We're one of the few states in the country that has state-owned roads as opposed to county run roads. It's a lot of ours. So part of other counties and other states, they're able to leverage impact fees for roads because they're county-owned roads, whereas we don't own them. And so we depend on the state to provide that service, and they use the funds from our income state taxes to develop the seed money for roads. And I agree with you, and it's frustrating. There is, of course, in state code, the ability for us to enact impact fees on roads, but we don't own them. So I think it's a very difficult concept for me to swallow if we don't actually own them and we can't leverage the work getting done on them. And I certainly would be weary of putting that onto our growth if we don't have ownership of them. So I hear you though, and I agree with you. It's frustrating. It's frustrating to me too as a commissioner that we don't have control when developers come in to increase the roads. So if you have two single lane roads and a big neighborhood comes in, the safety I always think about. I have 4 kids. And so I think about buses coming through this area and how that's going to be impacted. And it seems like there's a lot of puzzle pieces that aren't really meshed together.
But don't you all do have the control with the amount of developments that are coming in and approving all of those developments? Or is that just they get to build whatever they want?
It's kind of a mathematical equation. So once I serve on the planning commission. In my background, I'm a commercial real estate appraiser. So when something is zoned a certain way, they essentially, so as an example, we have in our county ordinance, we have residential growth. And so once they are upzoned and approved for that zoning, they essentially just have to meet with our engineers. They start the concept plan and the major site plan approval process. But it's essentially a mathematical equation as to how many homes they can fit in. And it is very difficult to limit what they can do there because the zoning allows them a certain amount of homes per acre. So the average homes that I see for RG in the county is like 3.5 homes per acre. And in the cities, it's a little bit higher density because they typically do a lot more townhomes than the county does. So it's where we have real control is leveraging upzoning requests. So when a developer comes in and wants to, and what has been done as an example is, there's this one zoning ordinance that we've had called residential light industrial commercial, which is also known as RLIC. And about 9.5 out of 10 times when, even though it has a commercial component, almost all of the time, it's used for high density residential. And so what we've done in the last comprehensive plan is to try to retire that zoning. So any new zoning request to ask for that zoning, we try to defer, and we're creating new zones right now to try to fix that problem. So right now we have residential commercial that's in text amendment process. And one of the things I put in personally is wanting to advocate for a certain percentage of commercial, and density is the things we're going to dive in. So that mathematical equation works out in favor. And then as an example, something that was requested upzoning for RLIC, unanimously supported by our commission to subvert that to general commercial, which is more low impact commercial development. It's a long 9, and it would allow for commercial services, but also that tax rate that we desperately need. So it's leveraging all these things. A lot of these developments are actually, and I don't want to do the blame game of the current city council members. A lot of these developments they're all puzzle pieces working in different jurisdictions. A lot of them were approved 15 plus years ago. And so they were fully entitled, invested for that development. So it's just everything coming together. That's what we have to fix.
So what you're basically saying is that there is no stopping any of the development.
No, I disagree. I think things that are coming through now, the real root of stopping development, or what I would say is changing how it's done, is with upzone requests. So the recent upzoning request, changing it from something that would have normally been high density residential, which is a tax burden on our system, as opposed to a commercial development.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think I'm optimistic. I think we have a lot of
But
control.
somewhere in there, emergency services and law enforcement, those infrastructures have to be addressed.
Oh, I agree. And we do have impact fees on the commercial side, which was recently just enacted. I don't believe we ever had non-residential impact fees before. So that's something we've added, and that's either per square foot, per room, whatever the type of commercial development is. But back to the Berkeley side, they use per square foot to have that, not in addition to the impact fee, that consistent budgetary constraints that a commercial, to make sure it's fair. Which is something I would look into.
Yeah, you can't stop growth because that means you're violating people's property rights. What we're advocating for, and I don't speak for everybody, but well, kind of do. We've all talked about this. We want balanced growth. When you keep doing residential, and no commercial, it's balanced with each residential mega development that comes in. And again, 80% of them are not being approved by us. With each one of those, the hole is getting deeper. That's the problem that I have. And I think that's a huge problem. And I will play a little bit of blame game. Sorry to be Mr. Mean guy up here, but there are a lot of people in the county, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds that come to our meetings, and they vote for elected officials who are approving lots of residential in high density areas, and they're protesting commercial. That is the source of the mathematical financial problem. It's not personal. It's how the taxes are collected. And yes, it's a huge problem in our county.
Hi, I'm right here. Hello, my name is Casey Brewster. I work for Good Shepherd Caregivers in Shepherdstown. We're a nonprofit that helps the aging and disabled in the county. Hi, can you see me? I'd rather not. So we work a lot with grants, and I looked up that the Berkeley County actually did receive 12 paid through FEMA, a grant program. And I think it was like 1.8 million they're receiving over the next 3 years. Is that something that you guys are entertaining or not at all?
So they are able, with that 12 person, they're able to add, they have a 24/7 in their 5 stations, 2 paid, and they're going to be able to go to 3. So the way the staffing works, and that's going to be deployed over the next 6 months.
But that is something we can apply for. It's a grant that they pay like 100% the first year, 75% next year.
It's
50%.
75 for the first 2 years,
There you
and
go.
the county has to pay, because you guys have to apply. Nobody else can.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's 75% for the first 2 years, and then you guys will have to cover the 65% for the last third.
Yes, ma'am. And we just recently got our FEID number, and now that we can apply for that. Chief Sign was responsible for that and getting that number, so now we can actually apply for these FEMA grants.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Just gonna tone it down a little bit. My name is Tina Martin, and I am a proud resident of this community, and I'm also the owner of the CMS Family Daycare Facility located on Best Road. Each day, I care for some of the youngest and most precious members of our town. Children ranging from 3 months to 5 years, and they fill my day with laughter, curiosity, and boundless injury. These children are the heart of our future, and I take my responsibility for their safety and well-being to heart every single day. So my heart's aching knowing that Bakerton does not have an ambulance here. One of the things that I love most about running a daycare is watching the kids explore the world around them. They love going outside, feeling the sunshine, picking dandelions, chasing butterflies, and learning about nature. But these simple, joyful moments of which childhood is all about, but as wonderful as outdoor play can be, there comes many, many, many risks. Several of the children in my daycare have severe allergies. Others have asthma, and lots of my littles are still learning how to eat and chew properly. I live every day with the awareness that in just a split second, something could go wrong. Being an allergic reaction, a choking incident, or a child struggling to breathe due to asthma. When you care for little ones, you learn very quickly that emergencies don't give you warnings. They happen in an instant, and these moments matter every second. Having a local ambulance at our fire department gave me and every parent I work with a sense of security that's hard to put into words. It means that if something were to happen, help is close. Help is trained, equipped, and ready to respond within minutes. And I don't want to ever stand there with a child distressed and wonder how long it'll take for help to arrive. I don't want to fear what might happen in the minutes between dialing 911 and hearing sirens in the distance. These moments can mean everything, and you know what I mean by that. Beyond the daycare, I think about my own family. My husband and I are getting older, and as much as we try to keep up with everything, it's not as simple as it used to be. He's still out there fixing things and working hard, but he's also accident prone. Just a few months ago, he fell from a ladder and broke his back while I was 6 hours away and nobody was home on our 7-acre property. That day changed how I think about emergency responses forever, waiting for help, not knowing how long it would take was one of the most hopeless feelings I've ever experienced. He too struggles with asthma, and we both have aged and we have health challenges, and it'll only get more frequent as we age. And I know we're not the only family in this community who does feel this way. There are so many parents and grandparents and caretakers here who share the same worries as I do. And I know that I'm not the only daycare in Bakerton, but I'm here to speak on my behalf and theirs as well. That's why I believe wholeheartedly that keeping an ambulance staffed in our local fire department is not just a convenience, it is a necessity. It's not about numbers or budgets, it's about lives, families, and a big peace of mind. It's about protecting the children who are growing up here, the same children who run around barefoot in our backyards and wave at the fire trucks who when they go by. These could also be our future firefighters and ambulance drivers. Our firefighters and first responders already do so much for this community, and having a fully staffed ambulance ensures that can continue to provide the best possible care when it does matter the most. Emergencies don't wait, and neither should we.
when it comes to being prepared. So tonight, I'm asking you to think about the children who play outside without fear, the parents who trust this community with their most precious gift, and the families like mine who rely on knowing that help is never far away. Let's make sure our community keeps that lifeline strong. Let's keep our ambulance here. Let's bring it back, ready to respond and ready to save lives in our Bakerton area. I do appreciate everyone listening and for caring about the safety of all of us who call this place home. And it's a heartfelt appreciation that I was able to come tonight, straight from work here, talking to my parents, and think I didn't even know this was going on. I read it Facebook. And that's why I'm here, because otherwise I would not have known. But I just ask from the bottom of my heart that you guys find a way to get an ambulance back here for the safety of my daycare and our community. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Todd Miller. Just a couple comments here, mainly for the, I guess it's the entities in the study. You know, what I'm hearing this evening is your capital improvements are fixed by the state. You're impeded over. So maybe what needs to happen is an optional 5 is the entity identifies to the commission for the 26th legislative session to write some new law. If you are one of the 2 most growing counties and you have some of the best recreational areas in this area, not in the state, but in the area, that is bringing in people on federal lands, find a way to what we just recently found out, the Middle East crisis, to negotiate with the federal government. Let them know that you're here, you need that safety sector. That it could be part of this, or it was going to do the stuff, but that should be part of it, I believe. The other thing is, I grew up in a small rural town, central, North Country, and our firefighters, my uncle was a captain firefighter for many years. They didn't just respond to fires. They also drove school buses. So they were full-time within the county. So they didn't just stay at the firehouse. So maybe that might be an option, again, for the study, if they were to use other resources within the county that are already fixed, that they could become permanent structure. I'm not sure how the school system works. I know it's probably cross-pollination, different silos you have to break through. But that might be another entity where, and I rode as many school buses too, where 5 hours before they had just responded to a fire and they were driving that school bus just as fast as I think driving the truck. So we never relate to school. So I can tell you that much. So all I'm saying is it can be a plus round thing, but just one more option. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. And thank you, Mr. Miller. And also for context, Berkeley County has been going down to Charleston for a better part of a decade and asking for a change in sales tax law to specifically to benefit public safety. So there are examples of that. It's a good point.
Yes, listening to everybody, I just have a couple of comments. I remember very, very long time ago, 2009, 10 timeframe. I'll never forget standing in, it was standing room only at the county commission meeting. And the report that was done for emergency services said that 8 out of 10 calls were for the racetrack. And I thought, wow. And that was one of the reasons why I think that the $39 for residential, and by the way, I have friends who are farmers who are paying $200 for an agricultural building with nobody there. And so that $39 is not just a flat across town. There are other people paying, including farmers, paying much, much more. So I'm going to offer a recommendation. And I've heard that Bakerton, and I've made this comment in front of the county commission, that we're worthy of an ambulance. We're worthy of fire service. Just because we're not highly populated doesn't mean we don't count. for emergency services, we pay the same price. So that said, I'm recommending that if Bakerton is a low call firehouse and ambulance, that you use this firehouse for education, for other things, that if you do get full-time firemen and women here and EMS, that if they're here full-time and there's not a lot of calls or whatever, you can schedule and use this area for training and for educational purposes for our youth. And so to fill that time, so you're not, I get the sense that I don't think you're gonna sit around and twiddle your thumbs. I'm sure there's stuff to clean and things to do, but I just think that that might factor in the equation, that if you do have Blue Ridge, Middle Way, and Bakerton, the three that were the ambulances were removed, put them back and then use the time that you might have the low call to have them do something else for the benefit of the community and public safety. So that's just a suggestion.
Thank you. And we have heard that feedback from those other communities, as you can imagine. Sir.
Hey, good evening again. So I was very encouraged to hear President Majdi and Marquise talk about the balanced commercial development. I look forward to attending and shopping at the Costco that will be on Route 9 shortly. On a serious note, y'all talk about you wanted to meet with the experts and have that conversation. If y'all sat down with the fire line officers that are here in the county from all 7 departments, if you had a meeting with them, just the commission and the fire line officers, and gotten their feedback directly from them, absent the study or anything else, but have you gotten it from them and then also with the study as well?
Our specialist who's online is meeting with them and they are meeting with them. And I guess they met with you guys, right? And you had to ask them questionnaires and send it back in?
I know on our behalf, the Fitch group who is conducting the study has sent out a questionnaire to the fire chief. And that questionnaire had 8 or 9 that were very basic to each department. Amount of members you have, amount of equipment, type of equipment, service you buy. Everything else they are collecting through the 911 center, through the CAD data, to determine the statistics, call volume, hot areas, cold zones, things like that. That's how most of this has been going on. It's been said at each meeting that they've been working on this in the background for several months, but they're just now starting to get core of the fire department stakeholders that, if that helps you in any way, that's where they stand at the moment.
And one of the liaison positions is the Jefferson County Fire Rescue Association. So that's in January, I was given that task. So it's a monthly meeting I attend, unless it's canceled. I think I've attended most or all of the meetings since I've been appointed to that role. And my goal is to understand, I'm not a professional firefighter. I don't pretend to be. I know 2 things that still take kids. And so learning this and understanding where you're coming from, maybe a couple more things, a lot of kids. But I really want to understand so I can make educated decisions at the end of this. I certainly don't want to kick the can down the road and put this on another entity in 5 years. And I'm a doer, but I also want to be extremely educated before I make a decision. And that's why I need to lean on all the stations, the experts, the studies, and speaking with other commissioners in other areas. So I hope that answers your question.
Partially, I guess, is there any plan at any point in time for the commission to sit down as the deciding body with the fire chiefs that are here and just have a conversation with them, have a workshop roundtable, something like that, without forms, or they just have a conversation and ask them specifically what they need? Is there any plan for y'all to just meet with the fire line officer?
That's what we're doing now. That's why they're here.
That's this.
Okay. Yes. So and that's why we're meeting at every station. This is our fifth fire hall meeting. Fire hall meeting is going to be at Independent tomorrow night, and our last one is in Jefferson County Pratt.
One more comment. Thank you. There's a trick to that as well. When the government meets, it has to be recorded. That's why we have this thing running. So all of us cannot meet with them privately unless it's on the record. So one of the things that I've done after each meeting is I go up to the chiefs and say, hey, let's continue a one-on-one just us. I want to learn more from you moving forward and our other commissioners at them.
And I believe we're also we've already requested, County Administrator Benitez to have a one pager, a supplementary, from the fire chiefs to ensure that we don't miss anything. It's in writing, so you can send a one-page brief on the needs of each of our 7 fire stations. Yeah.
Here I am again. One more follow-up. There's been a lot of talk about having more commercial entities in the county, industrialized areas, manufacturing, that kind of thing. I know this county has, in the past, 15 years or so, been very much of a not in my backyard county. And I just want to speak to that really quickly. My family comes from a manufacturing background. My dad was a plant manager and an owner of a manufacturing facility. So that's what raised me. And I'm very pro-business, pro-manufacturing. And I have seen the places across the country where manufacturing has worked very well with local governments to develop an area and make it a thriving area when it had fallen into really poor, stagnated areas. And I want to encourage everybody to please, if there's any kind of manufacturing coming to this area, look at it with an open mind. Don't close it off with the not in my backyard, because they can work in conjunction with county government, state government, getting things done. When we had a manufacturing company, I know my dad's policy was that if there was a fire and they had employees that were volunteer fire department, they could leave. They kept their pay, they stayed on the clock, but they could leave. And, you try to encourage that kind of thing, but it's almost to the point we're past being able to do volunteer anymore, but you get manufacturing facilities that then will come alongside and help you fund fire departments and that kind of thing. So just please don't be closed-minded to it. And if anybody, I live in the area, you can find me on the Bakerton page. If you have any questions about manufacturing and what it might look like at this area, please reach out to me.
Most manufacturing is actually lower impact than what folks think. There's heavy manufacturing, there's also light manufacturing, and the difference is depending on the environmental impacts of the surrounding area. So most manufacturing is good for an area. The trick is having proper zoning in areas where it makes sense. And so when you develop an industrial park, for example, that can make sense because you have a whole area closed off, but maybe not next to a school or a high residential area where you have kids running in the road. So it's proper planning mixed with an emphasis on being pro-business. So there's a balance between, what you're saying and what other folks think.
But to your point, most recently, not too awful long ago, we had a company that came in here. There was a lot of protesters against it. They have been a tremendously great neighbor to Jefferson County. They support county fair. They support CASA. They support all these nonprofits out there. That's Rock. And I wish we had about 4 or 5 more Rockwells in this county. They are a great neighbor. So thank you for those statements.
Some comments. I'd like to thank you for that comment. And I'd like to encourage you to find others with that same opinion and try to have them come to the planning commission meetings and speak in favor. Because unfortunately, what happens more than anything else is the not in my backyard. And every time you see something that starts to come here, you look at the posts around here. How do we stop this? How do we stop that? We don't want that here. We don't want that. We need to find people that will help stand up and support the growth, because a lot of these businesses, when they see that, they all start backing away.
Thank you. And I just want to clarify, we're now venturing into territory that's not 5-0 on the commission. It's not a universal thing. So you're hearing different opinions from different commercial. It's a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful thing. But there's different opinions on this. For me, I'm clean air, clean water, no exception. So I'm definitely in favor of growth. I use the word commercial because once you start talking about industrial, like Garrett said, it gets a little bit complicated. Well, what kind of industrial, what kind of emissions, et cetera. But for me, I'm talking about commercial, and on industrial, Jack, what's the phrase you use all the time? No smokestacks?
No damn smokestack.
Oh, there you go. Right. He's a lot more eloquent than I am. But there's a lot of different opinions on that, and Commissioner Key serves on the planning commission where some of those decisions are made for clean air and clean water that is regulated by the state.
Incidentally, when Rockwell was coming into town, it got a lot of bad press because it was called smokestacks, when actually they were vapor stacks. And the environmental impact was very, very low. However, the problem with Rockwell was location, location, location. And basically an industrial looking plant in that area is just ugly. And so that's the type of stuff that's going to rile up people. So we have to be very smart on what we bring in. And there's a lot of industries out there that's clean. And unfortunately, a lot of it is going to Berkeley County. And I go to the Eastern Panhandle Business Association meeting every month, and I hear about all the great low impact to the environment businesses that they're pulling in. And it really irks me because I hand them my card and I say, if you want an extension, please come to Jefferson County. We'd love to have you, but I'm looking for clean stuff. And I think that's basically how this county commission leans. We want commercial, but we want clean commercial, environmental friendly, and a lot of jobs. So, and as far as the fire thing is concerned, I've been quiet tonight because I'm listening. Got a couple new comments tonight, which I was very happy to hear, because this is the fifth or sixth one that I've been to, or I listened to one on a video, but a lot of the comments are repeats, and that's good because that means people all over the county are thinking pretty much the same way. I like that. I'm coming to some conclusions. It's not a final conclusion, but I'm listening to people and I'm building a conclusion in my mind, and I'm hoping for something that will come along that will change where I've gotten to so far. But I'm going to say right now, whatever it is, it's going to be very, very complicated. It's going to be expensive. And the thing is we have to weigh the expense versus, if it turns out to be a levy, what will the people in the county vote for expense-wise? So I know that to some people, ambulance services, for instance, and firefight are very, very high on their list. There are other people that just don't care. And that's really too bad until it happens to them. But it's something that we need. And we have to be very, very careful. If we don't push something that's so big and so expensive, it will turn off the voter base. If it comes to that. And I'm not saying that has been decided, but I think that's what we're driving to is a levy. But we still have a couple more meetings and some internal discussions. No, not the internal discussions at the county commission, where we will kind of flesh this out and try to make it good. But I tell you, I'll speak for most of us here, if not all, that we are trying to do whatever we can to work with the county, the different factions of the county, and do the right thing. I would love to have an ambulance here if we could afford it, and we could staff it. So that's two factors: afford and staffing. So there's a lot that we have to flesh out before we come to any conclusions. But we're in the early stages, as Pasha has said, and I just hope that if you can't come to the meetings, watch the videos, because there's a lot of good refresher information on there. And I'll stop talking.
Thanks.
And just,
We're-
just one clarifying question. When you said a levy might be imposed, or you're also, there's also fire fee, ambulance fee, and levy. So there's a lot of options, but I think what you're inferring is there is a need for more funding.
Yes, and the main objection I have to the fire fee is not the amount or the little amount, is it's not tax deductible. Money you would pay into a levy would be 100% tax deductible. Just think about that. That might make it more palatable to people. You can't take that $39 and count it on your taxes, but what you pay into a levy, you can. So it's more, but you get a lot of it back. So like I say, it's complicated, but I'm trying to think of ways that we can sell it to the public if it comes to the point where we need to do a levy. And thank you, Kara.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
And to clarify, that's another one of those issues where we have not discussed it as a commission. There's no plan. There's no, document saying that we're going to do something. We haven't even discussed it. So we're just at the outset. We are 2 hours in. I know that there's questions and comments remaining, but we'd like to meet with you individually so folks can go home. We're already 2 hours in. I'd like to offer Chief Spain an opportunity to close us out. Chief Sign. Any closing comments, Chief Spain?
All right, so again, I want to personally thank everybody for coming out, for your support. Thank the commission for being here, Chief Sign and the Fitch group that's online. Some things to think about that we didn't discuss here tonight, that we were discussing others, were the equipment and maintenance budgets, moving forward, financial support to the volunteer firehouses and stuff. For the folks who need a service, when we start talking about fees and levies, there are some savings because if we have staffing here, there are ISO rating can change, so their insurance rating changes, you can lower. The average savings on your insurance yearly would be anywhere from $180 to $600 a year, which would also help cover any type of fee or levy that they are charged, which would be a lot cheaper for the savings that they're getting. Okay, so all that comes into play. I know Fitch study also discusses that. But thank you guys again. We appreciate you.
What else is done? Right.
I just want to thank you all for coming out. I kind of feel like we've had more community support at this one than some of the other ones throughout the county, and that means a lot to us. And a comment was made earlier about possibly closing this place down. Speaking for the administration of this department, that has never been talked about. We will not close, and we will still advocate and fight to get paid staffing in this station to help support you all, and we will still continue to volunteer.
Commissioner Stopper, I'll hand it off to Chief Mood and Chief Sign to Commissioner Stopper.
Yeah, I just want to thank you all for coming. As I said earlier, I was born and raised here. We came a long way. Years ago, there was only 3 locations with ambulances in the county. I think it is 1, 3, and 4, I believe. So we came a long way. They were all volunteer. I think most, I don't know how many of y'all remember superintendent, but I think the prerequisite to work at superintendent, you had to be a volunteer. So back to the comment about being a bus driver and running fires, that's how it was when I was a kid growing up here. Things have changed, and that's why we're here trying to figure out what we need to do next. We went from 100% volunteer on the ambulance to a chase unit. Now we have a fully staffed unit spun out. We have, during the day, we have 6 staffed units and during the day and 5 at night. So thank you all for coming. This has been great. It's a great turnout. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming. We've had a lot of different participation this evening, a lot of different people in this audience than we've seen. Most of the audience has been the fire service. This is the polar opposite. And that really says a lot for Bakerton. When I first moved here, my kids first started, there was a meeting at Blue Ridge Elementary. I'd never even heard of Bakerton. And they were talking about a school shift, and that place was filled with Bakerton people. And walked out of there, I'd never heard of it, but wow. They came out and they spoke and they were heard. And it's nice seeing that here tonight. Thank you all for coming out, and I really greatly appreciate hearing what you had to say. I was sitting here taking notes all night long as to different things being said, so we can look at it later and try to help make this the best system we can make. Thank you.
I'll just say it again, this is a great turnout. I didn't really expect any different, because what I see on social media, this community is very active. I was born in the Bakerton area. My grandparents lived on Engelmuller Road. I was here till I was 5. I've lived in the county my entire life. Bakerton's always been a nice little unique community. I would love, as the director and the chief, to have staffing in every station today. If I had the money, it would be here. Like we've said, my guys do fire and EMS here in this county. So if you get firefighters, you get an ambulance. You get an ambulance, you get firefighters. It's all, they do both jobs. Okay. So we've come a long way in 25 years. We started out with a single paramedic and a chase car. And we now have staffing in quite a few stations, not all of them. It may look like we've gone backwards a little bit. It's growing pains moving forward. I'd love to see us much farther along than we are. I think we're running out of time. We are losing a lot of volunteers, and it's not just Jefferson County, it's nationwide. It's a struggle in today's world. So we're doing the best we can. I'm trying. It boils down for me, it boils down to staffing, and I can't have that without the funds. So we got to come up with a way to fund it. The volunteers need help with paying their bills to secure their locations and to continue to have their departments operate. So that's really just where I'm at. Thanks again.
Thank you, and I'll, did everybody, and I'll just close with this, like Chief Sines said, we're gonna have to work together. County Commission can't just show up and say, here's the answer. We're gonna do all these things, we're gonna take over the volunteer fire departments, we're gonna do this, that, and then, but we're not gonna do any of that. We have no interest in that. We have to work together. That's why we're doing this study. That's why we're here with you. We didn't come here with a plan. We came to listen first. There's an old saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. That's what we're trying to do. It's going to take a little bit longer. It's going to be a little bit more difficult. We're working together across all the volunteer fire departments, across our own staff, et cetera, to figure out a plan that we can fund for the long term. But that's the way we want to do it. And when I see the turnout that we see here tonight, I'm very hopeful for the future. Thank you.
I'd like to stick around and chit chat with you.
Yeah.